Jessie, and I'm a Children's Services Librarian here at the Clinton-Macomb Public Library. And today I am here to bring you Rockin rock painting. So what that is I'm going to teach you how to paint rocks using acrylic paint and some other supplies. And the purpose of this program is to spread kindness. So you may have been out in your community and have seen rocks that have various paintings on them, and you find them and you can hide them again. I am going to kind of show you how you can add some inspirational messages. You could give this rock to somebody that you care about that may need it, some words of encouragement. But we're going to go through a step-by-step process of how to create a Rockin rock to spread kindness. So first I'm going to go through the supplies that you're going to get. You're going to get a bag that looks like this once you register, and you're going to have a couple different things inside. First of all, you're going to have instructions. So if you, this video is going to be available for you to watch, but also there's a set of instructions inside here as well that goes through all of the supplies along with step-by-step directions. And then the other thing, sheet you're going to have in here is what looks like a little space to doodle, and that's exactly what this is. So I'll come back to this in just a minute when we go through the painting process. So inside this bag, you're going to have, of course, a rock. And I'm going to tell you that this rock is very special because I handpicked it myself from Lake Michigan. So I was at the beach and I collected all of the rocks that are in these bags from Lake Michigan. So it's a very special rock. You're going to want to make sure that the rock is very dry. It should be very dry, and I've cleaned these myself in Lake Michigan. And so you have a flat rock in your kit. You will have a pencil, a sharpened pencil. You're gonna have three different paintbrushes. You're gonna have a sponge paintbrush. You're gonna have a very thin one that's gonna help with detail. Oops. And then you're also gonna have more of a flat one for painting the surface of the rock. You will have a Sharpie. You will have the paint itself in these little pots here. I've made sure this is acrylic paint, so you really want to make sure that you have your surface covered, because it does come off, but it's not washable like some of the other paints we've used. But this is acrylic paint. Make sure you're covered, your clothes are covered, because the paint is difficult to get out of clothing. It's definitely washable off your hands. And then the last thing you're going to have is this little tube of what looks like white paint, but it's not. It's more of a glue. This is Podge. So this is what we're going to use to seal the rock. So that's something you're just going to kind of put to the side. So those are your supplies that we're going to be using. And then the next step I will show you is sort of the beginning stages of just kind of creating your design, and before we actually put it on the rock. So that is going to be the next step. Okay, this is, as you can see, I have all of my supplies here. This is the first step. I just kind of wanted to get myself organized. I don't really need my instructions here, so I'm just going to kind of set those to the side just in case I need to reference them as I'm doing this. But what I am going to use right now is this sheet, which has a square for you to kind of start designing and brainstorming what you're going to put on the rock before you actually paint it. Because once you paint it, you can't unpaint it. I mean, I guess you could cover it up if you do. That is the thing, is you'll just have to let it dry. If you do mess up or are not happy with your design, if you just let it dry and paint another coat of paint on there should be no issues repainting the rock. So I'm not going to use the rock right now. I'm going to put that aside. I don't really need my paint right now. I'm going to put that aside. I don't need the Mod Podge, but what I do need is my pencil. So I'm just going to start by creating my design. So the first thing I'm going to do is just draw a rock. I'm not the best drawer, but I can draw an oval. So I'm just drawing an oval here. I hope you can see that. I'll just draw it a little darker so I make sure that you all see that. And I love rainbows. Whenever I see a rock with a rainbow on it, it just makes me very happy. So I'm probably gonna draw a rainbow on mine. So I'm just gonna start by kind of like creating some clouds here. And I'm just gonna make the clouds to the side so they're kind of looking like they're going over the side of the rock there. So you can see I have the two clouds. And then I'm just gonna kind of connect them with these arches. Rainbows are so easy and they're so pretty. So this is something easy for me to do because, like I said, I'm not very good at drawing. I do like painting, but drawing's just never really been, when I was younger, but it takes lots of practice. So maybe I need to practice a little bit more. And then I want to put some words of encouragement on here. So I'm just gonna write something along the lines of, since this is a kindness stone, I'm just gonna write be kind. Okay, and then on the back of the rock, I am gonna write hashtag CMPL, and I will show you what we're gonna do with that later. So here is what my rock is gonna look like, and this is gonna be on the back, and I'll tell you why after we do our design on our rock, but mine's pretty simple. It doesn't have to be anything special. I did, on the top of this sheet, I did kind of give you some pictures and some ideas. A lot of these just have really simple sayings on them. They painted the rock first and then put some simple sayings. So you definitely have some examples here too. So we're gonna move on to the next step of actually starting to paint our rock. Okay, I have my rock here. You can see I've covered my surface with some paper towel. And then what you also have in your kit is a plate that we're using as a palette. I've put some of the paints on here that I plan on using. You don't have to use all of them, whatever colors you choose. But I'm gonna start with my flat paintbrush here. And I'm just gonna, I've decided to paint my rock white as my base. So that's what I'm gonna do first, is I'm just gonna start by painting this white. And we're probably gonna have to do more than one coat. So it doesn't have to be perfect. Just make sure you get some good coverage on there. And this paintbrush is pretty good with spreading it pretty evenly there. It was unsure if it was gonna be too small, but so you don't want to put it on too thick because you do want, you don't want it to take too long to dry. So I'm just going to put sort of just one layer on here and spread it out. Make sure I've gotten the whole surface that I would like to paint. And then I'm just going to kind of put it aside and take a break and let it dry. The other thing you could do is if you have a hair dryer, that will speed along the process. I don't have a hair dryer here with me, so I'm just gonna take a break and I'll come back and put on the second layer. Okay, my rock is pretty dry now, so I'm gonna go ahead and put the second coat on there. And then that way you just have like a very solid base versus, hopefully you won't see too much of the rock coming through. That way you'll have a nice smooth surface to draw what you want on the rock. So I'm just gonna try and smooth that out a little bit for the second coat and hope that it dries pretty quickly. Again, like I said, once that's done, and you might even want a third coat depending on how thick you want it on. Because I'm using white, it might require a third coat. So I'm just gonna see how this looks once it's dry and then decide then if I need another coat. Again, you can use a hair dryer to kind of speed up the drying process. So that's my second coat, and then I will come back and see if I require a third coat once this is dry. Okay, I have my rock here completely dry. I did 2 coats. I don't really think I need a third, but you definitely could add a third if you want to have that real strong background. I have my drawing here that I did earlier with sort of my design, my brainstorming ideas of what I plan to do. I have a Sharpie, which is a permanent marker, so just be very careful with, you might need some grown-up help here. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my design here and I'm going to draw it on here. Well, since clouds are typically white, I am going to draw the design, but most likely not paint in the clouds as long as they're white enough. So now I'm going to kind of attempt to use this Sharpie to create my design. It draws on there pretty easily. And then I'm going to do the other side for the cloud. As long as the paint is on there pretty smooth, you shouldn't have any issues drawing with the permanent marker. You could also use an acrylic paint marker if you have that handy. That's definitely an option instead of the Sharpie. And acrylic paint markers work a little bit better because they are the same kind of paint that you're putting on the rock. So it'll last a little longer, but we are going to be sealing this, so we shouldn't have any issues. Now I have a choice. I can either paint, I think I'm going to draw it on and paint it in between, just because I'm not very good at painting. So with a steady hand, I'm just going to kind of create that rainbow art, those rainbow arches, and then paint in between with a different paintbrush. So I think I'm going to do 4. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, one more. Okay, so there's my rainbow. And then underneath, while I'm still using this marker, I'm just going to write the words that I wrote on here. B. You might need to write it on there twice just to make sure you get all the letters filled in. Kind. Oh, my marker is getting a little dull here. So I'm just going to go over it a couple of times and make sure that it's nice and filled in with the marker. Okay, so there's my design. And then on the back, since this is dry, it's okay to flip over. I'm going to write hashtag. So that's the pound sign, hashtag. And it's all one, there's no spaces, CMPL. And what that's going to do is if on social media like Facebook and Instagram, you could have a grown-up post, if they have an account, they could post a picture of your rock. And then if they put in this hashtag underneath the post, hashtag CMPL, the rock will kind of pop up with some of the pictures we have for the library. So it'll kind of all connect our rocks together. And so I'm just going over these letters one more time. And then I'm probably gonna eventually hide this rock in our library, and then maybe you could come and visit me and try and find it. So, okay, so there's my drawing. And then the next thing I'm gonna do is, I don't need this anymore, but I do need my paint and my little tiny paintbrush. I also have a cup of water here and some extra paper towels. So if I need to clean my brush in between and then just kind of dry it on the towel. So the first color I'm gonna do here is, I'm probably just gonna do some red, and you're just gonna kind of just fill in. And you can go over those black lines. I might need more than one coat, but just fill in between the lines. You should have more than enough paint that is provided. And like I said, I'm not gonna paint those white clouds because they're kind of already painted, right? So now I'm gonna clean my brush, and I'm gonna go with green. And you might need, like I said, more than one coat, depending on how you want your colors to pop. As you can tell, I'm not using a lot of paint to kind of fill these in. Another, there's some examples on that sheet I gave you. You could paint your rock and then write some words on there. and then that could be it. Or you could, I've seen a lot of, depending on the shape of the rock, you could turn it into, like, I've seen strawberries. You could turn it into like whatever shape the rock is, which is really cool, depending on how good of an artist you are. I am not that great of an artist. I like to try to dabble, but this is definitely not something that I claim to be an expert at, that's for sure. But I don't think this is turning out too bad. And I'm just gonna clean my brush in between. The other thing you could do too with your colors is you could also mix the white and the red to make pink, and red and blue. You could do purple. So use this paper to kind of experiment with colors too. And then my last one's going to be yellow. You could make orange. So I tried to include as many primary colors so that you could mix colors and make some new ones too if you want something different. So there's my, it looks like my red is already drying, so I might do another coat on that. And as you can see, I'm just cleaning my brush that way. It seems to be working just fine. The paint's coming off pretty good. So I'm just gonna kind of brighten up that red there. If you're doing a rainbow like me, I've also seen it where you just kind of drag another color in there to kind of create more of an ombre. Let's see what I can do with that. Turn this a little orange maybe. Seen that, kind of blend those colors together. So it's giving you a little bit of an orange effect there. And then, let's see, blue. I'm just gonna go over the blue again. And then yellow. So I'm gonna give this some time to dry before we move on to the next step. So there's my rainbow. I don't think it looks too bad. You probably will do a lot better than me, but I tried and hopefully somebody will really love it. So we'll move on to the next step in just a couple minutes. Okay, here is my finished rock. You might notice a few changes. After I was done, I just felt like there wasn't enough color on it. So I mixed a little blue with a little white, and then I just colored in my clouds with my paintbrush. And I actually only needed one coat of that. So I've allowed this to completely dry. Like I can touch it, no paint comes off in my hands. You want it to be completely dry before the next step. I did end up using a hair dryer to speed along the process. Just be careful, the stone can get a little warm from that. So the next thing I'm gonna do is, this is my Mod Podge, which is kind of like glue. It goes on, it looks like it's white, but it actually, once it's dry, it's clear. And we're gonna wanna do 2 coats of this. So I'm just gonna take this sponge and I'm gonna just kind of brush it over the paint. You wanna be pretty generous with how much you put. It might leave some streaks, which is totally fine. It does dry clear, so don't worry about that. But this is just gonna kind of help protect it from, if it's outside, from the elements, the weather, the rain, the sun. Especially in Michigan or where there's a little unpredictable, it might end up in the snow. So this will help. There are sealants that you can buy at a hardware store that you can spray, also weather sealants that will protect it even better on top of this. But the Mod Podge should help a lot. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to let this dry. I am going to probably use a hair dryer to let it dry and then put another coat on it, and then we will meet back and see the finished product. Okay, as you can see, this is the final product. The Mod Podge is completely, I just made sure to try and get all of the areas around the side too, just to kind of seal it, but you can see it's dried completely clear. And then the Sharpie should be protected now. And then on the back, I wrote #CMPL, so I can take a picture and put it on social media and show everyone my Rockin' Rock that hopefully will spread some kindness. So you can hide these around your community, your neighborhood. You can give one to somebody. It should hopefully spread the kindness that everyone needs. Thank you, and thank you for joining me for Rockin' Rock painting.